Josie Duggar was always seen as one of the brightest, most cheerful members of the Duggar family. Growing up in a large household where love and attention were abundant, she was surrounded by siblings who, despite their differences in age and personality, were deeply connected. The family's home in Arkansas was filled with laughter, chatter, and the constant hum of activity, from school projects and chores to birthday celebrations and family dinners. Josie had always fit seamlessly into this bustling environment, her smile lighting up rooms and her energy often serving as a bridge between her siblings during conflicts. Everyone in the family, from the parents Jim, Bob, and Michelle to the eldest siblings, took pride in her intelligence, her quick wit, and her ability to care deeply for those around her. However, beneath the surface, subtle changes began to take shape, almost imperceptibly at first. Josie started exhibiting behaviors that were out of character. Where she had once been outgoing and consistently cheerful, she began withdrawing from family activities. She became more secretive about her daily routines, spending increasing amounts of time alone in her room. Initially, the family dismissed these changes as typical adolescent mood swings. After all, navigating the transition from childhood to teenage years was often challenging, and minor changes in behavior were expected. But over time, the small shifts became more pronounced. Her once boundless energy dwindled, replaced by fatigue and a sense of detachment. She would often appear lost in thought, staring blankly at the walls or the ceiling for extended periods, her eyes carrying a depth of sorrow that no one in the family had seen before. Her laughter, once a staple of family gatherings, became rare, and even when she did speak, her words were often subdued, lacking the enthusiasm and vibrancy she had been known for. Schoolwork, which had always been a source of pride and accomplishment for Josie, began to suffer. Assignments were incomplete, deadlines were missed, and teachers started reaching out to her parents with concerns. Initially, Jim, Bob, and Michelle attributed these issues to stress or the pressures of academics, thinking that their daughter simply needed guidance and reassurance. But it quickly became clear that there was more at play. As weeks turned into months, Josie's withdrawal became more noticeable. Her siblings, accustomed to her involvement in games, discussions, and shared projects, began to notice her absence and the subtle shifts in her demeanor. Concern grew steadily within the household. Michelle, in particular, started to feel a deep unease. She noticed that Josie's meals were often skipped or eaten in silence, and her once meticulous personal care routines had become erratic. Jim, Bob, equally concerned, observed that his daughter seemed perpetually tired, her posture slumped, her expressions often distant, as if a fog had settled over her usual vibrancy. The first time they truly confronted the issue was during a quiet evening at home. Michelle had been organizing Josie's room when she noticed empty packages of substances that were unfamiliar and concerning. Heart-pounding, she showed them to Jim, Bob, who immediately felt a mixture of fear, anger, and helplessness. The realization hit both parents with a weight they had never anticipated. Their daughter, their bright, loving Josie, was struggling with a substance problem. The thought that she had been hiding this from them, perhaps for weeks or even months, was deeply painful. Yet even amidst the shock and fear, the Duggars approached the situation with a mindset shaped by their family values. They knew that punishment or anger alone would not heal their daughter. Their faith, their belief in the power of compassion, and their understanding of the importance of family support guided their next steps. They decided that confronting Josie directly, with patience, understanding, and love, was crucial. When they finally spoke with her, it was not a confrontation in the traditional sense. It was a conversation filled with vulnerability, honesty, and gentle concern. They shared their observations, expressed their worry, and most importantly, reassured her that she was not alone. Josie, initially defensive and embarrassed, felt the weight of shame and guilt pressing down on her. It was a difficult moment, filled with tears and silence, but slowly, she began to open up about her struggles, the pressure she felt, and the moments that had led her to seek solace in substances. The family listened intently, offering support rather than judgment. Each sibling contributed in their own way. Words of encouragement, promises of companionship, and reminders that Josie was loved unconditionally. Jim, Bob, and Michelle, understanding the complexity of addiction, explained that this was a medical and emotional issue, not a moral failing. They emphasized the importance of professional help and assured Josie that seeking treatment would not diminish her worth or her place within the family. After hours of discussion and emotional exchange, a collective decision was made. Josie would enter a rehabilitation program designed to address her specific needs, both physical and psychological. It was a decision that filled the parents with a mixture of relief and anxiety. Relief, because they were finally taking concrete steps to help their daughter. Anxiety, because they knew the road ahead would be challenging, filled with uncertainties and emotional turbulence. In the days leading up to her departure, the family focused on creating a supportive environment. They spent extra time together, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet moments of connection. Each sibling wrote notes, made small gifts, and expressed their love and faith in Josie's strength. Michelle and Jim Bob meticulously coordinated with healthcare professionals, ensuring that Josie's transition into rehabilitation would be smooth, and that she would be surrounded by qualified, compassionate caregivers. Josie, despite her apprehension, felt a renewed sense of hope. The decision to enter rehab was not just about overcoming addiction. It was about reclaiming her life, rebuilding trust with herself and her family, and learning to navigate challenges without losing her sense of identity. She understood that the journey ahead would be demanding, but the unwavering support of her family provided a foundation of strength she had not realized she needed until now. Even within the family, the impact of this revelation rippled outward. Each member was forced to confront their own assumptions, fears, and limitations. Siblings reflected on how their interactions, however well-intentioned, might have inadvertently contributed to her feelings of isolation. Jim Bob and Michelle reassessed their approaches to parenting, recognizing that even in a household filled with love, subtle pressures and expectations could have profound effects on a child's mental and emotional well-being. The extended family and close friends also played a role, offering prayers, guidance, and encouragement. The Duggars leaned on their community, finding solace in shared experiences and collective support. In these moments, the importance of open communication, empathy, and proactive intervention became abundantly clear. Josie's departure to rehabilitation was marked by a quiet ceremony of sorts. No grand gestures, just heartfelt hugs, whispered words of encouragement, and promises to remain connected through calls, letters, and visits. As she left home, a sense of both sorrow and hope permeated the air. Sorrow for the struggles she had endured and the separation from her immediate family, but hope for the healing, growth, and self-discovery that awaited her. The first part of this story, while heavy with concern and emotion, lays the groundwork for a journey of resilience, familial love, and the transformative power of support. Josie Duggar, once veiled in silence and struggle, was now stepping into a path that promised renewal, guided by the unwavering care of those who loved her most. Josie's first days at the rehabilitation center were overwhelming. The moment she arrived, the sterile, unfamiliar environment, the constant schedule, and the presence of strangers, all trained to help but unknown to her, made her anxious. Every corner of the facility reminded her that she had left behind the familiar warmth of her family home and entered a space dedicated to confronting the most difficult truths of her life. The routines were strict, yet designed to instill discipline and structure. Early mornings, guided therapy sessions, nutrition plans, group discussions, and moments of reflection. Each day was packed with exercises aimed at physical recovery, mental clarity, and emotional understanding. Initially, Josie struggled to adapt. The withdrawal symptoms were harsher than she had imagined. Fatigue, irritability, and moments of despair tested her resolve. Sleep was restless, and her body ached from both the detox process and the unfamiliar physical routines. Mental fog clouded her judgment, making even simple tasks feel monumental. She often questioned her decision to come here, doubting whether she had the strength to endure the program. Yet, amid the struggle, small victories began to emerge. The first day she managed to complete her morning exercises without collapsing. The first moment she expressed her feelings openly in group therapy, and the first night she slept through most of her rest period. Each small achievement strengthened her fragile sense of hope. Therapists and medical professionals played a pivotal role in guiding Josie through this transition. They spoke to her with patience, explaining that addiction was not a moral failing, but a complex interplay of psychological, emotional, and physiological factors. They helped her recognize triggers, understand her emotions, and develop coping strategies that did not rely on substances. Slowly, she began to see patterns in her behavior, identifying moments of vulnerability and learning techniques to navigate them. Breathing exercises, journaling, meditation, and structured social interactions became tools of empowerment rather than punishment. While the rehabilitation process was challenging, the unwavering support of her family made an immeasurable difference. Michelle and Jim Bob remained in constant contact, sending messages of encouragement, calling regularly, and scheduling visits whenever possible. Each sibling found unique ways to express their love and concern. Some wrote letters filled with personal memories and affirmations. Others shared art or small gifts meant to uplift her spirits. This ongoing connection reminded Josie that she was not alone, that her family's love remained a constant anchor even in moments of doubt and fear. As days turned into weeks, Josie began to experience gradual, but significant, shifts in her mindset. She grew more aware of the depth of her struggles and simultaneously more confident in her ability to overcome them. Group therapy sessions allowed her to connect with peers who faced similar battles, providing perspectives that fostered empathy, solidarity, and shared resilience. Hearing others' stories of struggle and recovery helped normalize her experiences, reducing the shame and isolation she had carried for so long. The rehabilitation program also emphasized self-reflection and personal responsibility. Josie learned to confront not only the physical dependency, but also the emotional and psychological patterns that had contributed to her addiction. She journaled daily, examining her fears, her regrets, and her aspirations. This process was both painful and liberating, as it forced her to acknowledge difficult truths while simultaneously envisioning a healthier, more empowered version of herself. Family updates played a crucial role in maintaining her motivation. Each message from her parents or siblings reinforced the idea that recovery was not an isolated journey but a shared experience, where every small victory mattered. Michelle often reminded her that setbacks were natural and not a reason for self-judgment. Jim Bob encouraged patience, emphasizing that growth, much like healing, required time and consistent effort. Through these interactions, Josie gradually internalized the message that she was worthy of care, understanding, and patience. By the midpoint of her program, Josie had made noticeable progress. Her sleep cycles began to normalize, her emotional responses became more balanced, and she demonstrated increasing self-awareness during therapy sessions. Physical activities, once exhausting, now contributed to her sense of achievement and self-efficacy. Her confidence, though still fragile, grew steadily as she started envisioning a life beyond the constraints of addiction. Yet challenges persisted. Triggers from her past life, stressful thoughts, memories of moments when she had felt isolated, or reminders of her prior habits, occasionally surfaced. During these moments, she relied on the tools she had learned, reaching out to a counselor, journaling her emotions, practicing mindfulness, or speaking to her family. Each encounter with difficulty reinforced the lessons of resilience and perseverance, slowly reshaping her perspective and strengthening her resolve. As the days turned into months, the rehabilitation center became a place of transformation rather than punishment. Josie not only detoxified her body, but began rebuilding her identity, rediscovering passions and aspirations that had been buried beneath shame and fear. The steady rhythm of structured therapy, combined with unconditional family support, nurtured an environment where healing was possible and sustainable. After months of hard work, self-reflection, and guidance from professionals, Josie Duggar finally completed her rehabilitation program. The days she had spent in the center had been challenging, but they had also been transformative. She had learned to recognize her triggers, manage her emotions without substances, and rebuild her self-esteem. Each step forward had been a victory, no matter how small, and she had begun to see herself not just as someone who had struggled, but as someone capable of resilience, growth, and hope. Returning home was both exhilarating and nerve-wracking. The familiar sights and sounds of her family home, the laughter of her siblings, the comforting routine of daily life, and the warm presence of her parents, welcomed her back with open arms. Yet, Josie was aware that reintegration would not be without challenges. Old habits and memories lingered, and the transition from a structured rehabilitation environment back to daily life required careful adjustment. The Duggar family approached this reintegration with patience and understanding. Michelle and Jim Bob ensured that the home environment supported Josie's continued recovery, balancing freedom with guidance. They encouraged open communication, emphasizing that she could express her feelings and struggles without fear of judgment. Her siblings, who had anxiously awaited her return, greeted her with affection and reassurance, creating a network of support that reinforced her commitment to a healthier life. Josie's daily life began to take on a new rhythm. She resumed her schoolwork with renewed focus, participating in classes and projects with energy and dedication. She reconnected with friends who supported her growth and maintained the tools she had learned during rehabilitation, applying them whenever moments of stress or temptation arose. Meditation, journaling, and discussions with her family became integral parts of her routine, helping her maintain balance and perspective. The experience had left a lasting impact not just on Josie but on the entire family. Each member had grown in empathy, patience, and understanding. The family had confronted difficult emotions together: fear, anger, sadness, but through their collective love and support, they emerged stronger and more united. Josie's journey became a shared story of resilience, illustrating the profound importance of family bonds and the power of compassionate intervention. With time, Josie began to embrace new opportunities. She pursued hobbies and interests that had been dormant during her struggle, rediscovering her passions and setting goals for the future. Her confidence grew steadily, and she started to see herself as a capable, independent young woman, supported but not defined by her past challenges. By the end of this period, Josie's life had transformed significantly. She had reclaimed her identity, strengthened her relationships, and developed the tools necessary to navigate future obstacles. The Duggar family, once tested by fear and uncertainty, had emerged more connected and resilient than ever. Josie's story became a testament to the power of love, patience, and unwavering support. A story not of defeat, but of renewal, hope, and the promise of a brighter future. As weeks turned into months after her return, Josie Duggar began settling into a life that felt both familiar and entirely new. Her days were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. She approached schoolwork with dedication, balancing her academics with personal interests and hobbies she had rediscovered during her rehabilitation. Art, music, and time spent in nature became outlets for her creativity and emotional expression. Each small success reinforced her confidence, reminding her that her past struggles did not define her future. Family life, too, had evolved. The Duggar household, already closely knit, became even more attuned to communication and empathy. Siblings who had watched Josie's journey unfold felt a deeper understanding of one another, recognizing that struggles could surface silently, often hidden behind smiles and normal routines. Jim, Bob, and Michelle continued to provide guidance and structure, but they did so with a renewed focus on emotional support, encouraging honest conversations and creating safe spaces for vulnerability. Josie's relationships with her siblings deepened. They spent time together on family projects, shared meals, and casual conversations that were once taken for granted, but now held new meaning. Moments of laughter became more cherished, and even routine tasks were imbued with the warmth of shared experiences. The family had learned to navigate challenges together, fostering resilience and strengthening bonds that had been tested during Josie's struggle. With professional guidance, Josie also began planning for her future beyond the immediate family sphere. She explored career options, educational opportunities, and ways to channel her experiences into helping others. Mentorship programs and community involvement became avenues for her to share her story, inspiring peers who faced similar struggles. This sense of purpose gave her life direction and reaffirmed her self-worth, turning past hardships into tools for growth and compassion. Throughout this period, Josie maintained her rehabilitation practices, mindfulness, journaling, and therapy check-ins, ensuring that her progress remained steady. She understood that recovery was a lifelong journey, and that sustaining well-being required ongoing effort and self-awareness. The combination of personal discipline, family support, and professional guidance provided a strong foundation for her continued growth. By the end of this chapter of her life, Josie Duggar had transformed from a young girl struggling in silence into a confident, self-aware individual with a renewed sense of hope. Her journey became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of family love, and the importance of seeking help when needed. The Duggar family, once shaken by fear and uncertainty, emerged stronger, closer, and more compassionate, ready to face future challenges together while celebrating the victories, big and small, that life offered. The months following Josie Duggar's return from rehabilitation were marked by transformation, reflection, and a slow but steady reconstruction of her life. Every day offered both challenges and opportunities, yet Josie faced them with a newfound resilience and clarity. The process of recovery had not been linear. There were days filled with doubt, moments of fear, and instances when the weight of past mistakes threatened to overwhelm her, but each hurdle became a lesson in perseverance. Through these experiences, she learned to redefine her understanding of strength, realizing that true courage lay not in perfection, but in the willingness to confront vulnerability and seek help when needed. Life at home had evolved into a harmonious balance of structure, freedom, and support. Jim, Bob, and Michelle, having witnessed the fragility and resilience of their daughter, approached parenting with renewed sensitivity. They fostered an environment where communication was prioritized, emotions were acknowledged, and individual growth was celebrated. No longer were discussions limited to rules, chores, or achievements. They delved into feelings, dreams, and challenges, creating a dynamic in which Josie felt seen, heard, and understood. The entire family grew from this experience, learning to navigate the complexities of adolescence, addiction, and recovery with compassion and patience. Josie's relationships with her siblings had also deepened. They had shared in her struggles from a distance, offering support in small but meaningful ways, and the reunion had strengthened bonds that might otherwise have frayed. Simple acts, preparing meals together, walking in the backyard, or engaging in playful conversation, took on a new significance. Through these interactions, Josie recognized the value of empathy and mutual support, understanding that family could serve as both a refuge and a foundation for growth. Beyond the household, Josie began to explore her own aspirations with a sense of purpose. Recovery had provided clarity, revealing passions and goals that had previously been overshadowed by her struggles. She engaged in creative pursuits, revisiting hobbies that brought her joy and a sense of accomplishment. Music, art, and writing became not just outlets for expression, but tools for self-discovery and healing. Moreover, Josie expressed interest in advocacy, wishing to share her experiences to help others who face similar challenges. The thought that her journey could inspire hope in others added meaning to her own recovery, creating a cycle of empowerment and compassion. Professional support remained a cornerstone of her continued well-being. Regular therapy sessions, mindfulness practices, and check-ins with counselors reinforced the lessons she had learned at the rehabilitation center. Josie understood that healing was an ongoing process, one that required vigilance, self-awareness, and consistency. She embraced these practices, integrating them into daily routines and gradually building resilience that extended beyond moments of crisis. The journey also prompted reflection within the Duggar family as a whole. Witnessing Josie's struggle and triumph highlighted the importance of awareness, empathy, and proactive care. Siblings became more attentive to one another's emotional states. Parents reevaluated their approaches to guidance and discipline, and the family collectively understood the profound impact of love, patience, and open dialogue. Josie's experience became a catalyst for deeper familial cohesion, teaching lessons about vulnerability, accountability, and unconditional support that would resonate for years to come. Community support further enriched Josie's path. Friends, mentors, and extended family members rallied around her, providing encouragement and validation. The experience underscored the significance of networks of care, demonstrating that recovery and growth are rarely solitary endeavors. Josie learned to accept help graciously, to lean on trusted relationships, and to cultivate connections that nurtured her well-being. This awareness fostered a sense of belonging and reinforced the idea that her struggles did not isolate her. Rather, they connected her to a broader human experience of resilience and renewal. By the final months of this chapter, Josie had transformed in ways that were both tangible and intangible. Her physical health had improved, her emotional responses were more balanced, and her outlook on life had shifted from one of uncertainty to one of hope and possibility. She approached challenges with problem-solving skills, faced setbacks with patience, and celebrated successes with gratitude. Every day became an opportunity to strengthen her sense of identity, agency, and purpose. The Duggar family, observing Josie's progress, felt a profound sense of pride and relief. The trials they had faced together, fear, worry, and uncertainty, were replaced by joy, gratitude, and optimism. They recognized that recovery was a shared journey, one that demanded courage from both the individual and the support system around them. Through patience, understanding, and unwavering love, they had witnessed the remarkable resilience of a young woman reclaiming her life. Josie herself reflected on her journey with a mixture of humility and pride. She understood that her past struggles did not define her, but rather, her responses to them shaped the person she was becoming. Each obstacle surmounted, each moment of self-awareness, and each act of seeking support had contributed to a renewed sense of self. She embraced a philosophy that mistakes were not endpoints but opportunities for learning, and that life's difficulties could be transformed into sources of strength and empathy. As the story drew to a close, Josie looked toward the future with cautious optimism and determination. She envisioned a life where her passions, ambitions, and relationships could flourish, grounded in the lessons she had learned. Her journey became an emblem of hope, not only for herself but for others facing similar challenges. Through her perseverance, she demonstrated that recovery was possible, that family love could heal, and that resilience was a force capable of reshaping the trajectory of a life once shadowed by struggle. In the end, the Duggar family emerged stronger and more united than ever. Josie's story was no longer solely about hardship. It was about transformation, growth, and the enduring power of support, compassion, and determination. The challenges she faced became the foundation for a future built on strength, hope, and purpose. The narrative closed not with finality, but with the promise of continued growth, a life renewed, and a family bonded by love that had weathered the storm and come through it with deeper understanding and unwavering connection.